ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. WEBY, Milton, Pensacola.
The following has been produced by Talk Football LLC. Former Florida Gators quarterback, NFL quarterback, and NFL head coach. Coach K. Stevenson has a resume second to none, and now he's sharing his insider information with you. Talk Football with Coach K starts right now on ESPN Pensacola.
Welcome to the program. Talk Football with Coach K is live on a Wednesday. I'm Joe Ford, as always, joined by the legendary Coach K. Stevenson. As we have approached midweek and a lot to get to, some news and notes from around the NFL, college football as well. And we're going to take a bit of a stroll down memory lane. I caught Coach K during his time with the Buffalo Bills on YouTube today. ESPN did a special many years ago about the top 10 draft classes in NFL history, and his Buffalo Bills, the 1985 Buffalo Bills, were on there at number 9. So I want to get into that because I love hearing stories about his time in the NFL, and I know a lot of you will be able to do that. Eric Vidrine also joining us here on a Wednesday. Eric and Coach, how are you guys doing today?
It's going well. Good to see you, Joe.
Absolutely.
Eric.
And good to see you guys as well. And let's get to it, shall we, with everything going on. Big games coming up this weekend. Heard from Nick Saban talking up Texas A&M as only Nick Saban can, saying they have a good quarterback, they have good wide receivers, they have a good offensive line, they have a good defensive line, they have good linebackers, they have a good safety, and it's going to be a real challenge for him. We'll see.
He just missed the water boy.
Yeah, just missed the water boy, but I'm sure he went back and we'll learn.
I'll tell you what's going to be with us is a huge weekend coming up.
Yeah.
And we're going to make picks on it and talk about it a little later as well. But it wouldn't be a bad idea today, if we have time to do so, to talk about at least the 5 big games that are coming up.
Sure, absolutely.
College this weekend. Give a first thought about those games. They're huge, and they're going to set the direction. This week we'll do more toward providing a direction for the playoffs than any week we've even touched. So,
we've seen weeks before. The LSU Texas, for example. Last week we had Florida and Auburn. So we've certainly have seen weekends with some huge matchups. But we legitimately have 2 of those, and then there's a total of 4 games this weekend featuring ranked opponents. So there's certainly a lot to get to, and should be one of the better weekends. And of course, it's only just getting started, as October and November are ripe with those type of games, almost on a weekly basis now that we're into to conference play. And Texas A&M, I went and looked at the standings, Coach. They're the only 2-loss team in the top 25. They are 3-2, losses to Auburn and Clemson. So the losses aren't bad, but for Texas A&M to be a 3-2 team and ranked usually would mean that they've something about them that has really stood out. But I haven't seen that out of Texas A&M yet. They've looked pretty underwhelming for the vast majority of the season.
Yeah, it's a good. This is a good example of media hype that has played a role, Joe, in the ranking of teams right now. I don't think there's any question about it. But talking about ranking of teams, there's a lot of order here. But I do want to, before we get too much further, UWF, big win last weekend, and ranked number 25
right
now, and ranked in the top 25. So while we're talking about rankings, let's give kudos to our hometown team here.
Yeah, 4-game winning streak, and now 2 weeks away from that overtime win, and they came back and got a big win on Saturday as well. So absolutely, UWF on a bit of a roll right now. We learned yesterday through chat, Eric, that I did not know that Coach Shinnick was played at Colorado. I did not know that.
I remember he did play at Colorado. I don't remember the year like Chad did, and I didn't remember the position. But I did know that he played at Colorado, and I know that he had a big family tree of football, so I did know that much.
Well, his dad was a heck of a player.
Right.
Great player.
We were talking off and on yesterday afternoon about kind of like old jerseys that we would like to own, and Chad brought up that he would love to, especially if he was going to a UWF game and he was on the sideline or something. He would love to have a Pete Shinnick Colorado jersey. That would be pretty cool. There's probably only one that one would be in existence, and it would be Chad's, because I don't know if Coach Shinnick has any of those, like in his a box in an attic somewhere.
Well, has it framed?
Maybe.
I don't know. I would doubt it.
Well, next time we have Coach Shinnick on, I'm going to have to ask him. I'm going to say, hey, Coach, Chad wants your jersey. Can he borrow it for a weekend? We'll see. We'll see what he says.
I think it would probably look like a wizard robe on Chad, because Chad's a little bit smaller than Coach Shinnick when he was playing. But it would definitely be entertaining to see.
Absolutely. So news and notes from around the NFL. So this Richard Sherman Baker Mayfield dust-up is apparently being put to bed now. Did he or did he not shake hands? Yes, that's what we're arguing about on the national media today. Apparently, Baker Mayfield did shake his hand, and Richard Sherman says, my bad, Baker. You still irritated me somehow, but just going to let it go. So, whatever.
I think he's irritating quite a few people, not just Richard Sherman.
I buy.
He really needs to keep his mouth shut and play football. And now here he is on. Somebody was saying the other day, I heard him on television, saying every time they turn their TV on, they see him in an ad now.
Right.
And so there are a lot of NFL players who are saying, how does he deserve that? When I've been around 4 or 5 years, got a heck of a lot better record in the NFL than he did. But anyway, it's a little unusual for a guy to be as obstinate, if you will, as he's been.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no mistaking his personality. And so, when companies look for spokesmen, when they look for guys like that, I mean, some of the biggest personalities that we've seen in the sport are guys like Peyton and Cam Newton, certainly a pretty transcendent personality in his own right there. And Baker has that factor as well. I know that there's guys, I remember very famously when, Andrew Luck, he was projected to be, the best quarterback prospect since John Elway, and he had an opportunity to kind of make have those endorsement dollars come rolling in, and he made the decision, no, I got to focus on football right now. Well, Baker has certainly taken the opposite approach. Not that he's not focusing on football, but yeah, I mean, he certainly has a personality, but that personality can get him in trouble at times, which we've seen.
Well, that's the Q rating, and that's what it's actually called. It's a Q rating is designed for business marketers to understand how marketable a player is. That's why Juju Smith is number 2. I don't think anybody here would say he's the second best wide receiver in the NFL, but all that's basically saying is because of his personality, his swagger, and his charisma, those are all elements that come into place for the Q rating. So the sponsorships and things like that, they understand how marketable he is because of that brash personality, which does rub people the wrong way, but that's how they come up with it. It's actually called a Q rating, and his is just really high right now.
Yeah. So now, will that lower if he just continues to lose? Or
well, it won't help. Yeah. But more so than anything, they see the guy who isn't going to put up with anything, and they see him doing his little dance and things like that. And although I'm not a fan of the dance, I'm all for dancing. I like people like Ocho Cinco and Odell Beckham that do that kind of entertainment value. But that's just how they come up with that criteria. It's called the Q rating.
Well, Johnny Manziel's a Q rating must be still pretty high.
Yeah,
I've seen him wearing some red suit on some low-level insurance commercials with Tanya Harding.
Yeah, so his is still obviously up there because obviously he had his little trademark Money Manziel's thing like that. But as you can see, to your question, if he continues to lose, does it hurt him? Well, Manziel isn't having as many endorsements, obviously, because he kept losing. So, it will hurt your Q rating eventually, but right now that's why he is still in that spotlight.
Well, we talk about guys with Q rating, and so I'm guessing Gardner Minshew is probably high
It's
on
high.
the list
It's
right
high.
now. Whether or not it remains to be seen whether he's a flash in the pan or not, but it's an interesting conversation and one that we were kind of having before we started the show. Coach, on the field, there's no doubting that Gardner Minshew has talent. We talked, after he came in after the Nick Foles injury that, the Jaguars saw something they liked, and they're 3-2 right now, and taking on the New Orleans Saints this week. But when it comes time to whenever Nick Foles comes back, if the Jaguars are still playing well, if the Jaguars are still in a position where they're competing, I mean, there's an interesting decision to be had there. Number one, the on-field product, but number two, it seems like not just the team, but I mean the city has really rallied around Minshew mania.
Listen, if they do keep winning, and this guy does the job, Minshew I'm talking about, Foles will be back in another backup job. There's no question in my mind about that. They're not gonna remove Minshew at this point to go back to Foles. Now, if Foles was a bona fide starter with credentials, much more, much heavier, much better credentials than he has right now. Not that he's done anything wrong. He's been a very valuable football player. But he hasn't. Listen, a young guy coming on with the ability that he's shown, and also the winning type attitude. He's got players fired up around him, and they're not going to jerk that away from a football team. And Foles doesn't have the personality, I don't think, to demand an entree back on the field. And I think he'll be fine. Foles probably be fine with being a backup again.
And Eric, we were something that you said before we went on was just this is something that we were due for as NFL fans or just football fans in general, like a legitimate quarterback controversy. And again, don't know if we're at that point yet, but I mean I think we're getting
the writing's
there.
on the wall. Yeah. So about every 4 or 5 years, you have a quarterback controversy, and what I mean by that is you usually have a guy that you didn't expect to come in and perform the way that they're doing, and then your hand is forced to where you have to roll with that guy. So we saw it about 4 years ago. Tony Romo, the guy who's always throwing for 4,000, 5,000 yards on America's team, nobody thought that his position would ever be in jeopardy, but in comes Dak Prescott. You could go back to Kurt Warner, someone who's won a Super Bowl MVP, someone who's also won a league MVP. When he started struggling and Mark Bolger came in, he took the spot. And then Drew Bledsoe, when he went down, Tom Brady took the spot. So you see this pattern that occurs about every 4 or 5 years, so we are due for one. And whenever he came in and the way that he looked, especially now with the rookie salary caps, the best bargain in professional football is when you can get a quarterback on a rookie deal. Coach K, we were talking about it yesterday, that bargain that the 49ers got by getting Jimmy Garoppolo at $25 million compared to some of what the other quarterbacks are. So Gardner Minshew's not even going to make $1 million in the next 3 years. So if you can get a team that is going to be looking for a quarterback, because the value will still be there for Nick Foles if you wanted to trade him, to where you can use that additional money to get other pieces around Gardner Minshew and build up, the defense and the line and things like that, they'll be fine.
Yeah, I would think for a year or two, they're not going to want to trade Foles. Want to keep him there as a backup and as a teacher and insurance policy, whatever you want to call it, because they don't have to pay. Your point is very good. They're not going to have to pay Minshew for another 3 years. 2 years anyway. So I think it's a great situation for them to be in. My goodness, I would argue about some of the quarterback changes. I think Dallas pulled the plug on Romo too quick. I really think Romo could have done was in position to do a better job than the young kid. I think they just pulled the plug on him too quick.
New Orleans Saints are 3-0 since Drew Brees has been out.
Yeah, and
they have the Jaguars, the Bears, and the Cardinals before their bye on November 3rd.
And then
if Teddy Bridgewater is 6-0 going into their bye week, is there any shot whatsoever that they're not that they keep going with Bridgewater. I mean,
Just think about this. The best way to think about it is this. We just talked about Foles, and I said he didn't have the credentials.
Right.
yeah.
Put Foles in Breeze. You think Breeze has got the credentials?
They've won
Yeah.
the same number of Super Bowls, right? I'm just kidding.
No.
I'm saying mostly in
Starting to sound like
jest.
Chad. That's a team accomplishment, buddy. We've already had that talk.
I'm saying this mostly in jest, but
Yeah.
I understand what
No, he
you're
would.
saying. But
Breeze would be back in there soon,
Yeah.
just as soon as they can get him back.
I'll tell you what, though, the fact that
Bridgewater's done a great job.
the fact that the Saints were able to get Bridgewater so cheaply, and it seems like ancient history to think about Teddy Bridgewater when he was with the Minnesota Vikings,
First rounder.
and he was a first-round draft pick from Louisville. And I mean, he played pretty well. I mean, we kind of all thought at the time that the Vikings had something really special with him, and then he suffers that horrific injury. He goes to the Jets, and then the Jets trade him to the Saints for I want to say a low-round draft pick.
Yeah, I think it was a third-rounder.
Yeah, something like that. But and all of a sudden, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater is looking like the possible heir apparent. It just seems like so long ago that we were thinking about Teddy Bridgewater as a legitimate starting quarterback, and since then it's like, oh, no way, that can't possibly be the case. But
well, credit to Bridgewater, because if you remember, he turned down a couple starting opportunities to be a quarterback during the offseason, but he actually took less money to return to New Orleans, and I think that gamble is actually going to pay off because everyone around the league is seeing what he's able to do when you actually have some pieces around him. Because if you were to go to Miami, you have no pieces. If you were to go to Cincinnati, you have no pieces, really. So for the most part, with him being able to show people, hey, look, you give me some talent around me and don't put me in like a dumpster fire situation, we can win some ball games. So I think he is going to be a starting quarterback on a different team next year.
a team like the Vikings, maybe.
Actually, a swing of events. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I mean, it's crazier things have happened, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have a
You
have a legitimate opportunity
we'll give you
there.
Bridgewater back for like your next 3 first-rounders.
No, they ain't gonna do no
I
3
know,
first rounders.
I know.
They might pull a. I'll give you Stephon Diggs for Teddy Bridgewater. Maybe not,
Yeah.
but no, I can see him going there. Kirk Cousins did play good last week though, so let's not ignore that. But yeah, I can see him going back there.
We'll take a timeout, come back, and dive into the college football weekend. Big games coming up on Saturday. We'll get into those next. By the way, the phone number if you want to weigh in, 623-1330. Back in a moment, talk football with Coach K, ESPN Pensacola 1330, 99.1 FM.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Don't drop the ball this football season. Make Tom Thumb your game day destination. We are your first round pick for snacks, chips, dips, and drinks. Are you tailgating before the game? Don't get blindsided. Head to Tom Thumb for all your supplies. Score big savings with our rewards card. You'll earn 4 fuel points for every $1 spent in store. From hot dogs and buns to ice and propane, Tom Thumb has you covered to help you enjoy the game. For the ultimate game day, team up with Tom Thumb, the local store for local champions.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
Sometimes your bank, your family, and your friends love you, but they don't have the money to help you. Sometimes we have chances to make money, but the old saying, you've got to have money to make money, rings true. At Pensacola Specialty Pond, we can help. If you have trucks, heavy equipment, airplanes, boats, jet skis, anything with value, Pensacola Specialty Pond can loan you that short-term money you need. No credit checks, and at Pensacola Specialty Pond, you're going to find the money and the discretion you need.
Now at 6428 Pensacola Boulevard, north of Car City. Call 432-9050, 432-9050.
All right, it's time for some straight talk. You wouldn't pay $100 for seats to a baseball game where you can get the same seats for $50. So why pay more on your wireless when you can get the same 4G LTE networks for up to half the cost? For $45 a month, get our unlimited plan with 25 gigs of high-speed data from Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, only at Walmart.
Savings may vary. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com.
Cooler weather is around the corner, and our free AutoZone Loaner Tool program is here to help you get your car in shape for those fall drives. You can choose from over 100 specialty tools, borrow the one you need, and get the job done right, all while saving precious time and money. And you can save even more with great deals every day on STP oil, starting at just $16.99 for a 5-quart jug of STP conventional motor oil. Visit us at AutoZone.com and start the job fast. Deposit required. Restrictions apply.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Golic and Wingo.
A different host from ESPN Radio from around the country is going to make their pick in our Survivor pool.
This is Davis Allen from ESPN Pensacola, and my pick for the Golic and Wingo Survivor pool is Kansas City over the Jacksonville Jaguars.
That might be the toughest game on the board week one, and Pensacola is swinging with Hall of Famer Patrick Mahomes.
5 to 9 every weekday morning. ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station. Your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola, 1330.
ESPN Pensacola 1330, 99.1 FM. Talk football with Coach K, live every weekday from noon until 1. Coach K, Eric Vidrine, and I'm Joe Ford in studio here as we turn our attention to college football, and quite a weekend we have in store. I guess you call it the Big Four of games featuring ranked opponents, but there are some other games there that are going to be really good games as well, and we'll dive into a couple of those here. As a coach, we were talking before we came back on here, a big matchup in the Big Ten, which, if Michigan State's not playing Ohio State last weekend, this is possibly a fifth game. Not possibly, probably a fifth game between two ranked teams. 8th-ranked Wisconsin taking on Michigan State at home. Michigan State 4-2, those losses to Ohio State and Arizona State, who have surprised a lot of people. The Herm Edwards-led Sun Devils are 4-1, and they are 18th in the country now. So they've turned things around there. Credit to Herm Edwards. A lot of people were when that hiring was announced. I think a lot of people were kind of taken aback by that. And
I'm happy for Herm, and he's done a good job, and I think we'll continue to do a good job there.
So looking at that Big Ten matchup, Michigan State and Wisconsin, it's a 2:30 start time, I'm assuming on ABC, ESPN, something along those lines. But so Wisconsin with Jonathan Taylor, 745 yards on the season, 12 touchdowns, including 5 a week ago. And, the key to stopping Wisconsin is something that nobody's been able to do thus far, and that's, try to take away the run. And it's easier said than done with an NFL caliber tailback and the big beefy offensive line that Wisconsin always seems to have.
Yeah, and this game is what I would refer to as an indicator game. You don't put it quite rightfully. You don't put it in the Big Four, as you refer to it. But how Wisconsin handles Michigan State, you've got a photo to look at from last week with Ohio State and Michigan State. And how Wisconsin handles Michigan State is going to be at least somewhat of an indicator as to their entree into the playoff competition. Now, listen, I like Wisconsin. I really do. I like that running game they have. I think they've got one of the best offensive lines that you could see. They've certainly got the size they're as big or bigger than most NFL teams up front, and they can move. So I like this Wisconsin team. They're playing a little better defensively, but I think this is going to be a good indicator as to just how much they're going to be able to play in that playoff competition.
And talking about the playoffs, one game that is certainly going to have an impact on that discussion is going to be the Red River rivalry between Oklahoma and Texas. Can't say shootout anymore.
Right.
Can't say the Red River shootout, just like you can't say the largest cocktail party. But Oklahoma and Texas in the Cotton Bowl, and Oklahoma undefeated, Texas 4-1 that lost to LSU. But Coach, a chance here for Texas to make a statement, perhaps pull off an upset. Oklahoma favored by 10.5 points right now. This is a neutral as it gets. This is 50-50 Oklahoma and Texas fans here. But in terms of the playoff competition, would a loss by either team effectively eliminate either one?
Quite possibly so. I think somebody from that conference is going to have to come out undefeated and a conference title to be there. Otherwise, a one-loss SEC team, the way they're rated right now, is most likely going to come out in front. Now, Texas has already lost a game, so obviously that'd be the death nail for them. I think this is going to be a very, very interesting football game. You know, it's something interesting, little bit of trivia. Some people say, why in the world would Oklahoma allow that game to be played in Dallas, Texas every year? Very, very simple. They wouldn't have it any other way because it gives them an entree into the state of Texas for recruiting. Big-time recruiting in the state of Texas. Why do you think Georgia allows the Georgia-Florida game to be played in Jacksonville every year? Mm-hmm. Because it gives them a better entree into the state for recruiting purposes. So, anyway, big ball game. Texas, Oklahoma, always a big game, even bigger this year.
And I'm looking up Google Maps because if I'm not mistaken, Norman is right around the same distance too from Dallas as Austin is. So there's it's not like a neutral site game where Alabama's playing Oregon in Atlanta. I mean, we're talking about teams that are roughly the same distance apart. But Coach, you're right. To being able to play a game in the state of Texas and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that with the recruiting rules the way they are, I mean, it has, in order for your particular team to be able to invite recruits to that game, you have to be the home team. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that's correct.
Yeah, you have to be the home team, and each recruit gets five official visits. Unofficial visits are going to be on their own dime.
Yeah, so and this game I assume would qualify. I don't know who the home team is considered. I know
the bottom team. So it'll be Texas.
So it'll be Texas this week. So that's certainly huge. But in years when Oklahoma is the home team, obviously that's a big weekend to get recruits down there. So for both schools, other game that again is not on the radar as one of those big games featuring ranked opponents, but usually is USC taking on Notre Dame. And USC, I love when they travel to South Bend to take on the Irish. And Notre Dame, number 9 in the country at 4-1, USC 3-2. So not quite the national stakes that we're used to seeing out of that game, but another chance to really for Notre Dame to show that they are a legitimate threat here to perhaps back their way into the playoff despite the loss to Georgia. But that seems to be a really far-fetched idea, even if they were to run the table.
Yeah, because they don't have a conference championship, and everybody else that goes into the playoffs, you can bet they're going to come out of a conference championship game. So that's the big thing. Plus the fact that Notre Dame is anxious to play exceptionally well on down the rest of the schedule, Joe, because it means a bigger bowl for them, bigger bowl appearance, and more money for the school. And so there are a number of reasons. And the end of the year, a higher ranking at the end of the year. So there are a number of reasons for them to play exceptionally well.
And Notre Dame, one of those teams that you love them or you hate them, you have to respect them for the fact that they, on a year-in, year-out basis, do have one of the tougher schedules, regardless of conference affiliation. And it's games like against USC. They're not afraid to play Georgia. They play Florida State, Clemson with that ACC partnership there. So Notre Dame's in these type of games every single year, and that's certainly good to see. The 2:30 game on CBS has Alabama taking on Texas A&M. We talked about this a little bit early on here, but don't have a spread on this one, which is unusual. Usually it's on there. But I would imagine, Eric, that Alabama's probably favored by around 15, 16, 17 points, something like that. But,
yeah, I would say probably at least that. I was thinking more probably about 18 to 19.
Yeah, anything that you've seen out of Texas A&M this year to make you think that they have any legitimate shot of pulling off an upset here?
Well, Jared Hawker's not very good at predicting upsets either, so nothing indicates really that they're going to upset this. I know a couple years ago this was actually a high appeal type game, but to me, I think kind of like the hay is already in the barn, if that's what you want to call it. I don't see Alabama really facing many obstacles with Texas A&M. Every time Texas A&M has played against a team that's any type of talented, they just shown that they just haven't matched up to them yet. So especially against Alabama, I don't see them really having a fighter's chance in this one.
And Coach, you talked about kind of the media overhype, the preseason build up to this one, and this is a game that I'm sure CBS would love to have back in terms of picking which game that they wanted to show, because they elected to pick Alabama, Texas A&M, which left LSU, Florida up for grabs. So that one's going to be featured on ESPN.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. I'm anxious to see how they. Well, for example, I think it's correct me if I'm wrong. Twice a year they can pick the doubleheader. If that's not
once a year, and they did that with the Georgia Notre Dame game.
Okay, now there's another time that they can pick a night game. There's twice a year that they can pick a night game as opposed to the 2:30.
Okay, I'll have to look into that. Maybe they're saving that for.
But I think they'd already picked this, so it doesn't apply to this one because they had already chosen this game with Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And by all rights, start of the season, I'm sure no one would disagree with that decision. So, but when we talk about hype for Texas A&M, and it's all legit because Texas A&M is going to be a major power in the SEC for many, many years to come. I mean, my gosh, how many times do we have to say it? Look at what they got going for them. You got the state of Texas, one of the greatest states in the country to recruit in. Got some of the best facilities, if not the best facilities in the country, to bring kids into 104, 105-seat stadium they fill up every week. They play in the SEC, so they play the Alabamas, the Floridas, the Georgias. They play the best in the country, so they're going to be on television and be recognized as playing in the SEC. They also have reach by the virtue of the fact that they're in the SEC. They have reach into the adjoining SEC states, Louisiana, Mississippi, Florida, Georgia. So, I mean, it's just an ideal situation to be in, the Texas A&M situation. And all the pluses are there.
And Coach K, there was a report last year. Texas A&M football received the most donations from boosters out of any other.
That's a good point.
Football. So that's part of the reason why Jimbo left Florida State, was because he wanted to get the boosters a little bit more money coming in. And over at Texas A&M, they got the most.
Well, they get all the resources they want.
Exactly.
But that's a good.
And the spread, Joe, is 17 for Alabama and Texas A&M.
We'll go ahead and take a timeout and come back and dive into more college football, NFL, and a trip down memory lane with Coach and one of the best draft classes in NFL history. That and more coming up. Talk football with Coach K, ESPN Pensacola, 1330, 99.1 FM.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Don't drop the ball this football season. Make Tom Thumb your game day destination. We are your first round pick for snacks, chips, dips, and drinks. Are you tailgating before the game? Don't get blindsided. Head to Tom Thumb for all your supplies. Score big savings with our rewards card. You'll earn 4 fuel points for every $1 spent in store. From hot dogs and buns to ice and propane, Tom Thumb has you covered to help you enjoy the game. For the ultimate game day, team up with Tom Thumb, the local store for local champions.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck, Bentley. That was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
And now, Smooth Thoughts from Goodyear Auto Service.
As a technician, I love to see smooth rides drive by. Hey, man, because we offer lifetime balancing and rotation for every tire we sell. Looking smooth, Billy.
This has been Smooth Thoughts from Goodyear Auto Service. Now through October 13th, get up to $200 back by online or mail-in rebate on select sets of 4 Goodyear Eagle tires when you use your Goodyear credit card. To learn more, visit GoodyearAutoservice.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, there's a new type of account takeover attack called lateral phishing.
It's a serious threat. Cyber criminals hijack your email account and use it to launch phishing attacks on your internal and external contacts.
What if they attack us?
Don't worry. We have Barracuda Total Email Protection.
So we're secured?
Completely, with the industry's best layered defense against attacks, including account takeover and phishing.
That's a relief.
Protect your business at Barracuda.com. Barracuda, your journey secured.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station. Your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola 1330.
ESPN Pensacola 1330 and on the FM at 99.1. I'm Joe Ford. Coach K and Eric Vidrine also in studio for Talk Football with Coach K. Live every weekday from noon until 1 o'clock. Coming up at 1 to 2 today, Tomahawk Talk. Myself and Eric will stay in studio to preview Florida State and Clemson. Another, we call it big game, but a decent game here as Florida State's on a couple-game winning streak, and Coach, while nobody necessarily expects Florida State to win this one, they have shown a bit of progress here in the last month or so, and Clemson certainly favored. They're at home, but hopefully, Florida State's able to put up a good fight. Maybe play it close late in the ball game, and who knows what can happen. But after what happened a couple of weeks ago in North Carolina, Clemson's certainly not going to be in a position to do anything but make a statement here.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more, and keep in mind what they're playing for. They're a little behind the 8 ball right now.
Playing for, I think, perception in a lot of ways, right?
Well, yeah, but they've got to move up to be one of those 4. They're not one of the 4 top teams right now. They've got to move into that. Now, there's going to be some incestuous knockoffs in the SEC. LSU, Alabama, and so on, and then Georgia, Alabama, maybe in the SEC championship game. So they've got a good chance to move in there, probably will, but they've got to win. Now, keep in mind there's one other big factor for Clemson, and that is the ongoing rivalry with FSU. They're always going to want to beat them.
And Eric, you're pretty close, obviously a Florida State graduate here, and we'll certainly get into this more in the next hour as well. But James Blackman is healthy, and we've kind of hinted at this leading into that. You're of the opinion that the backup quarterback has done his job, and now it's time to turn it back over to James Blackman. But it sounds like from the comments that Willie Taggart's making is that both quarterbacks are going to play this weekend.
Yeah, and I think that's fair considering the performance that Hornibrook has done. But like I said, there is certain instances where when the backup comes in, like a Gardner Minshew, to where the business side of things takes over. In college, there is no salary cap, so you really just have to look at, did the starter do anything to lose the job? For me, the answer is no. So that's why I believe that they should roll with Blackman, but I also can understand the decision to let both of them play because Hornibrook has definitely earned that right to do so.
Looking at some other news and notes from around college football and the NFL, we talked about, speaking of Florida State, Jalen Ramsey is expected back at practice. It looks like he'll be limited, but he's missed the past couple of games due to a back injury, and he visited a back specialist in Houston over the weekend, Coach. And again, the optics have not been great the past 3 weeks. He has requested a trade. He played in the Thursday night game against the Titans. Then he had the birth of his child, and then the back injury that kind of mysteriously, crept up. But he visited a specialist, and I'm guessing the specialist gave him all clear. So I don't know if, and I would hope this isn't the case, but you never really know. Jalen Ramsey does not, by all appearances, want to play in Jacksonville anymore, and now he's back with the team. And if this kind of has been an issue where he's been just trying to force his way out by not playing, he's kind of running out of things that he can say that'll keep him on the sidelines.
Well, let me tell you, if I were the head coach there, I would have already traded him to his mama's house. That's where I would have traded him to. Get out of here and don't come back. Take all your stuff. He's cancer. He's a cancer. You cannot have somebody like that, and you can't. They certainly can't succeed in what they're doing. Everybody who wants to move to another team, they want to live in L.A. or they want to live. They just go act like a fool and get out of it. You just can't do it. And I would make an example of him. That's what I was hoping they would do. And still hope that maybe somebody will step up and say, you're, and rightfully so, they could suspend him so easy, conduct detrimental, and just say you're suspended for whatever reason, for whatever number of games.
Well, if there is a relationship to salvage, and if Jalen Ramsey is intent on coming back and playing for the Jaguars, this would certainly be a week to do it, as Michael Thomas has been a man among boys the last really all season. You could probably make a case for him being, the best wide receiver in the sport right now, and he was just completely dominant last week against the Buccaneers, and now the Jaguars are playing the Saints. So if there's a week for Jalen to come back and really kind of get back into the good graces of everyone, this would be a week to do it.
Yeah, and definitely show his worth because we are approaching Week 8 here shortly, which is going to be the trade deadline. So if you're Jacksonville, you obviously want to trade him while his value is the highest so you could get the most return of investment with that trade. Obviously, when you have the birth of a child, you can't necessarily lie about that. They're there. And as far as the back goes, I think by going to see a specialist, it does show you are actually trying to get better. It's not like you're coming up with excuses like Antonio Brown or something. But at the same time, it's hard to really trade him at this particular point when the value is not going to be at its highest. Now, if you want to put a statement on the game, you go lock up a guy who just had 11 catches, 180 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and then all of a sudden going into Week 8 when you start answering the phones for the trade value, they're already wanting a first-round pick and an additional pick. they have a better chance of achieving that if he can be out on the field and put a stop to what's been Michael Thomas.
Thursday night football. I was
just going to say, it just goes far beyond the value of the guy. Okay, the value of the guy is to be available, be a part of that football team, be a leader, be a winner. He is not. Now, one of the reasons he's got a little interest right now is because Jacksonville's playing awfully well without him, and anybody can still win that division they're in. What if they come back and be invited to the party, and he's not there? He's thinking about all these things. If he's not, his agent is. So, but he's caused enough disruption. They could set an example that would last for a number of years. I just think the best way he can help that football team is to be suspended.
Coach, I'm going to tell you the teams, and this is from the Arizona Central here. The teams with the top 5 highest paid cornerbacks. Okay? The Dolphins, the Redskins, Jets, Vikings, and Cardinals.
Wow, that tells you a story.
Well, we talked about yesterday, and again, there's a lot of different ways, and you've said before that you would not pay a premium for the cornerback position.
I wouldn't, and it goes back to Sid Gilman. I learned an awful lot playing for Sid Gilman, and one of the things, Sid would never draft a cornerback. He went and got them as free agents, and brought them in, and they worked with them and trained them, and they became very good. From Speedy Duncan to many other great corners that they had. They never drafted one, but he just didn't believe in it.
Yeah, and we were talking about the 49ers yesterday. They have Richard Sherman, but they're not paying him what the Seahawks were and what he wanted from the Seahawks. And we talked about Jalen Ramsey, and quite frankly, there are reports that a team was offering the Jacksonville Jaguars 2 first-rounders for Jalen Ramsey. And to me, for as good of a player as Jalen Ramsey is, again, there's the top 5 teams that are paying cornerbacks the most money. 4 of them are 3 of them haven't won a game. One of which has won 1 game, and then the Minnesota Vikings have won a couple. So you talk about roster construction, and you talk about, okay, where are we going to invest the most money? Where are we going to try to build? Yep. And the teams that are building from the inside out versus the outside in. There's a pretty big discrepancy on who's playing well and who's not.
The thing with Richard Sherman, the reason why his contract is a little bit lower than what you're seeing on here is because 1, he's a little bit older,
right,
and 2, because he tore his Achilles.
Yeah.
And the one thing I will give him credit for, because he is a Stanford graduate, which is one of the reasons why I love Richard Sherman so much, is he acted as his own agent, so he didn't have to give up 10%.
Right.
So he got the deal in the place that he wanted. He could have gotten a little bit more money had he gone to probably some of these bum teams that you got pulled up right here. But he liked what the 49ers were building, and he had a great relationship with John Lynch because he's a defensive back, as you know. So that was part of the reason why he took a little bit less for that situation. And also with the aging and the injury, that's kind of where the market was just for him at the time.
Right. And I guess, and not to disparage Richard Sherman to say he's not a good cornerback, but the 49ers are not going out there and spending a boatload of money. The Patriots are on this list. They're number 9. Stephon Gilmore, is the 9th highest paid cornerback according to this list that was, that came out at the start of this year. So it may be a little bit off, but I think it's for the most part pretty accurate there. But the Patriots have spent money on Stephon Gilmore, but they have the number 1 defense in the NFL right now with guys that some of them we know, and we know the McCourty twins, but they
recycled Jamie Collins essentially.
And the cornerback that made the interception in the Super Bowl.
Malcolm
Butler. They let him go. Tennessee gave him a boatload of money.
And what has he done since
he
then?
is.
But McCourty, the corner from New England, is regarded as
Gilmore.
Gilmore, I'm sorry, the best lockdown corner in the NFL right now, and that comes from 2 or 3 different people, not just me. I think he is too. I second there.
So again, we're talking about a position that Jalen Ramsey is going to kind of set the market for that position, and I'm just we're seeing a lot of evidence that say, hey, if you're a team that wants to contend for Super Bowls and you want to contend and be a major player year in year out, you're probably not going to be in on that.
No, probably not. But also at the same time, if you're trading 2 first-round picks for one player, unless you're the Chiefs, who could desperately use it at that position, chances are the Jaguars are going to be winning that trade regardless because they still have A.J. Bowie. So,
right.
They definitely have the resources to sacrifice one cornerback because it's not going to hurt them any. And if they can get 2 first-round picks in exchange for it, they're definitely going to win that trade.
Already.
Yeah, they would have won the trade.
Let me ask you guys a question. If you were a general manager, head coach, whatever, and you had the opportunity to trade 2 number 1 draft choices and get Jalen Ramsey, knowing what you know now, would you do it?
Well, I think for me, I can answer that part for me pretty quickly. For me, it depends on the projection of my team. So if I'm, let's say, if I'm Kansas City and I know it's a late first-round pick and I'm not going to really need that late first-round pick, I would be content with doing that. But if I'm a team like, let's say, Chicago right now that's struggling and looking for that extra edge, that pick might be around 10 to 15, I'm not going to make that jump.
It wouldn't matter if it's 32. Would you trade 2 potential starters for somebody like him who's going to come in? He's not going to come in and be anything tremendously different than what he is now. You may get him, he may settle down for 2 years. May not. What's he going to do when he gets in your locker room? If he goes in your locker room, and I'm going to tell you what we used to, it was a multiple of 4. That one bad egg in the locker room would take out in multiples of 4. And it wouldn't take him long to get 10, 12 of your kids disgruntled. I don't want that in my locker room. I would not have that in my locker room, have a guy like that. Because I know what he is. You don't have to go too far. So, anyway, food for thought.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with that. I think, though, that it depends on, like everything, context, and it just depends on the situation. If I was like Cliff Kingsbury and, I had Kyler Murray and a young team that I was trying to build, no, I'm not making that because the draft picks matter more to me. But I think there's a team that, we have said that, from the top down, their roster is probably one of the best in professional football, if not the best, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. The one spot where they are truly hurting right now is the pass defense. Adding Jalen Ramsey to that, because the Eagles are clearly in a championship window right now. Do I think that adding Jalen Ramsey to that could put them over the top? Yes. So, if I was the Eagles and I had, Doug Peterson as my coach and I had a strong leadership structure, yeah, I think I would do that. But that's very few teams that we're talking about. So, by and large,
I think there's one team that he could go to and stay on the straight and narrow.
Patriots.
That's the Patriots. Because all of them know, every one of them in that locker room know. You get off the straight path and you're gone.
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, buts about it. No compromise. It's over. You're out of here. And they know that. And if he went there, he would know that and may stand a chance. That's like Brown, going there. That was the only chance he had.
Yep.
That was the only chance he had.
Out of the league.
Yeah.
Quick timeout. We'll come back to wrap up a Wednesday edition of Talk Football with Coach K. ESPN Pensacola 1330, 99.1 FM.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text. Stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Dude, it's game day, and I'm fired up that football is back.
I know, but I'm bummed they don't show my favorite team on TV around here.
All right, well, what about that place Calvert's? They're a really cool English pub-style restaurant, and they have a really good drink menu.
Yeah, but what about the game?
Don't worry, they have the NFL Sunday ticket and plenty of TVs, so we can watch any game that we want.
Ooh, I just looked at the menu, and that Abbey Road burger is calling my name.
Calvert's in the Heights Restaurant and Bar, 3102 East Urbana Street, calvertsintheheights.com.
There's only one place in town for the lowest prices and greatest selection of firearms. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Visit our fully stocked Gun Pro Shop for new and used firearms, accessories, and ammunition. Check out the Indoor Shooting Range. We offer rentals on guns, including fully automatic machine guns and silencers. Ladies, this is the safe place to learn how to use a gun. Plus, Tuesday is Ladies' Day. Women shoot for half price all day. The best place to buy firearms in Pensacola. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Highway 29 in Car City.
Talk football with Coach K on a Wednesday. I'm Joe Ford, joined with Coach K and Eric Vidrine in studio here, wrapping up a Wednesday edition. We'll be back tomorrow to break down Thursday Night Football, which on paper shouldn't be much of a matchup as the New York Giants take on the New England Patriots. They will be without Saquon Barkley, without Evan Ingram, and basically anybody who can catch a football. So Patriots are supposed to have the first place schedule, but so far has not manifested itself.
A lot of rookie-to-rookie combination, Daniel Jones to Darius Slayton, just like they did last week. See what the rookies can do.
Can't wait to see that. But Coach, I wanted to with the remaining couple minutes that we have left, I was poking around on YouTube this morning, and I'm a big fan of the old NFL Films videos, narrated by John Facenda, kind of just looking at that, and I stumbled across a video about the '85 Buffalo Bills, and it was a feature that ESPN had done, the top 10 draft classes of all time. And Bill Polian was featured on that, and he talked about head coach Kay Stevenson and how you guys were working in tandem and coming up with this draft, and it produced guys like Bruce Smith, Frank Reich, of course. Andre Reed was a fourth-round selection there. You had 2 number 1s, 2 number 2s, 2 3s, 2 4s. I mean, you guys were just stocked up with draft picks there. So I wanted to. You were telling us about off the air, and I thought it was a great story with what went into drafting Bruce Smith with the first overall pick that year.
Well. It's considerable what has to be done if you're going to put that much, the future of your franchise, really, to some extent. You mortgage a lot of it if you're not careful there. So we had 5 different people involved in getting the information together. Obviously, we had 2 scouts and a pro personnel guy, or college personnel guy, and then we had an ex-FBI agent and an ex-detective PI type guy. We wanted to find out everything possible about the guy. Now, the ex-FBI guy and the ex-PI, private investigator, were schooled in what we were looking for. They weren't just guys out there as, naked with football. They knew what we were looking for, and they knew how to dig in and get it. But anyway, I know we don't have enough time to
they were going back in. I mean, they were looking into like
everything from their elementary
school. So
he
pushed little Johnny down on the playground. You had that. You had that information.
Yeah, we had it.
That's crazy. I love hearing stuff like that. So we'll get into more stories like that as the week goes on. For Eric, for Coach, I'm Joe. Tomahawk Talk is next.
Football season has arrived, and ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM 99.1 FM is where the action is. Bringing your high school football every Friday night, UWF football on Saturdays, and the NFL on Sundays. If you would like to partner with ESPN Pensacola as a sponsor or promotional partner, give us a call at 262-6000.